have GIMP open, just have to reopen the scene and I'll be ready to jump right in. But I'm thinking I might do a quick wallpaper with some new photography that I would have taken recently, because I think that would be pretty fun. I used to do that every stream where I would do a wallpaper as part of the stream, so I'm thinking to restart that. I'm also, as I said, working on my streaming schedule, and I kind of have a tentative idea in mind, so you can look out for that to be announced very soon. And also, I did promise to do some more YouTube tutorials. I was a little busy recently, but I still have that in mind, still have that on the card, so you can look out for new content on my YouTube channel as well. So as I mentioned, today is going to be a painting stream, and I'm going to be continuing this scene here, which you would have seen the last time that I was here painting. Let me see if I can make this a little smaller. Right. Yeah, there we go. So this is what I'll be doing today for the most part, and when this is done, it will be made available on my stores, which are my Redbubble store and my Teespring store. And links for those are on my channel, I believe, and they should also be available from my pinned tweet on Twitter if you follow me on Twitter. If you haven't done so yet, you can share and let someone know that I'm live so we can have a bigger family. I'm also trying to reach 50 followers on Twitch, so if you want, you can follow me if you're new. If you're not new, but you know someone who may want to watch, you can let them know to subscribe. And yeah, so that's basically it. So with all of that said, I will open up Inkscape actually. I'm not going to paint immediately, I'm going to give some other people a chance to join. I'm going to open up Inkscape and create a new wallpaper in there. Oh, and while I wait for Inkscape to open, and I forgot to open GIMP as well, all open source software. But while I wait for that to open, let me also remember to mention that the music today is provided by Creators Lib. That will be who I'm using for basically all of my streams going forward, at least for the time being, because they have some great music, Afrobeats music that I really like. The song I'm using today is Rhythmic Mix Volume 2, and all of their songs are free for creators to use, just you have to credit them, of course, which is fair. So yeah, you can check out their channel on YouTube. The link will be in the video description when this stream is completed. And yeah, so make sure to look out for that. So Inkscape is open. It took a little while because I'm running quite a bit on the system today, but it can handle it, don't worry. And I'm about to drop in this photo here that I took recently. This is, believe it or not, just a container of water, but it looks really cool when you do some low exposure photography. Maybe someday, if I can figure out how to do it, I will actually cover some of my photography techniques, but I don't want to give away all of my skills in that particular arena. So if you want my photography techniques, which you could say I taught myself because I didn't go and study this anywhere, this is just talent, skill, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, if you want to learn my photography techniques, I'll probably write a book someday or something, I don't know, but I'll figure out a way to get them out there. But I'm not giving away my photography techniques for free, at least not all of them, because that's some special stuff to me. Not many people have the skill I have, and I'm not bragging or boasting, just being real here. So yeah, my photography is unique, but one of these days I will probably find some way to make it available, make my skills and my techniques available. We'll see. So as I said, what I'm going to be doing is creating a wallpaper in Inkscape before we actually get to painting, which is something that, as I would have mentioned at the beginning, for anyone who's new, I used to do in all of my streams before, and then I had stopped, just kind of got used to not doing it, but I'm going to do it again today. And it won't take too long, so yeah, and this wallpaper will be made available from my streaming page, which is being updated, by the way. I could show you a preview shortly. It should look pretty cool when it's completed, but at this point it's still in its infancy. But I'm redesigning my streaming page on my website from scratch, so that it looks a lot cooler and a lot more modern and all that stuff. Alright, so another thing, you'll get to see some of the new features of the new nightly builds of Inkscape, by the way, which I am really loving. It makes it a lot more like some of the tools that everyone likes to say are professional tools. By the way, there's no such thing as a professional tool. It's just a tool. Just like there are different knives that you use when you're cooking and preparing food or whatever, there are different tools, and that's all they are. No such thing as a professional tool. But as you can see, when you drag objects around Inkscape now, they can actually be aligned directly on canvas without having to go to the Align and Distribute tab. So that's pretty cool. Oops, let me put this in the bottom there. I also forgot to make these edges square, so let me fix that before I go any further. Clearly something went wrong there. Let me release this. Okay. Not sure what I did there just now, but for some reason Inkscape got a little bit confused. Okay, there we go. Much better. Oops, I didn't even realize what I typed there because I was talking and got distracted. So /streaming. Let me fix that quickly. As for the font, well, no, gold small caps may not look as good. Let me go with this one. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, that looks better. This center, or do I want this down here? Oh, yeah, let's put it off to the side. Oh, and I forgot to plug in my graphics tablet. Funny enough, I have to use that today because I'm painting, and I forgot to plug it in. Only takes a second, but I completely forgot about it until just now when I was about to use it. Alright, I'm going to actually write this here. I don't know if my handwriting is legible enough, but it will have to do. Alright, let me try doing this one more time. That's much better. Alright, and the last step that I'm going to take here is actually making this look a little like it has flames on it. So I'm going to use another photograph to overlay on this one. Just have to find it. I used it yesterday and now I am having to scroll and scroll and scroll to find it. But it is in here somewhere. Ah, there we go, finally. Set the layer mode on this. I think overlay might do the trick if I tweak this a little bit. Maybe not. We'll see. Alright, I think I'm pretty much satisfied with this, so now I will drop another layer on top of it and we will jump back over to GIMP shortly. For those who are now joining, I have a habit that I started when I first started streaming of doing a free wallpaper each time I stream, so I decided to get back into that habit today. But we are still painting in GIMP, it's already open, and I was just giving those of you who were a little late to the show, so to speak, some time to jump in. that, get back to that when it's time to export. So, as I would have mentioned, today we are going to be painting this scene in GIMP, continuing on from the last time. And the last time I was here, I had a little issue with locking layers because I couldn't figure out how to get that to work. And it turns out that I had the wrong button in mind, because I hadn't before that time, I hadn't used GIMP for a number of years, at least not extensively. I mostly work with vector graphics most of the time, so I have forgotten that one little detail, which is that the button I wanted was this one right here. And I could have just looked at a tooltip all that time. So yeah, last stream, if you watch it, you'll notice that I had that little challenge, but that's being figured out, so that shouldn't be a problem today. Alright, so the last thing that I did was I just did a rough well, basically I just had done a rough layer with the leaves, and it wasn't really exactly what they're supposed to look like. So today I'm going to be cleaning those up, as well as cleaning up some of the shading of her face. I still want it to have a shadow over here and over her nose, but not quite as dark or as flat as it is, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Alright, that's my signature that can turn off. Why is it not turning off? Did I put this in the wrong layer? I'm beginning to feel I put... Okay, yeah. For some reason it wasn't turning off before. Okay. Turning off the layers that I don't want to work with at this point in time. That will speed up the process a little bit at least. Alright, good. So it's the nose that I want to work with here, and I need the rest of these on at least to give me an idea of what it should look like. Except for maybe like her hair and the leaves in the background, I don't need those either, so those can go. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is actually use the Smudge Tool. And I'm using my graphics tablet instead of the mouse to do the actual painting because it's much easier for me to use that. Oops, this is way too small. Alright, let's see how big this is. Yeah, that should do the trick. What I'm trying to do here is just move some of the darker areas out of the way so that it blends better in the background layer. Might move a little slowly today because I think the system might be running something in the background, which I'll need to check for in a minute. Typically I try to make sure that that doesn't happen, but computers sometimes do their own thing. You know how it is. If it persists though, I will pause, not the stream because I don't have to pause the stream, but I will pause and fix it. Seeing much change here, and I'm wondering if I need to adjust. No, I shouldn't need to adjust the hardness. So it may just be that my system is moving a little slow, and maybe that's why I'm not seeing the changes being applied. Because sometimes when the CPU is under pressure, I find that these apps tend to update rather slowly. I hope that's not the case. See if the eraser will work. Even that doesn't seem to be working. Is it because of let's see what happened. I forgot that GIMP works quite a bit like Escape, but now you need to have the layer selected, so all that work I did just now counted for nothing. How funny. That happens. But as I always tell y'all, I don't hide anything on my streams because mistakes happen in life, and nothing is ever really that perfect, so it makes no sense trying to pretend. In my tutorials, of course, you won't see mistakes because they're edited out, but mistakes do happen, so on stream, I don't bother to hide that stuff. Alright, I'm going to erase some of these edges here because there's too much color already in those areas. I can just smudge them back into position. So I'm going to actually use some of the pre-existing color and recreate her nose with that. If only you could do that in real life when you were painting. I used to paint in real life at one time, and there was absolutely no way to erase what you had done and reuse some pre-existing color. I really wish that you could, but you can't, obviously. Check my CPU because I think that GIMP is beginning to slow down a little bit too much, so just a second. As I suspected, it is GNOME shell that was running a little too heavy, so I'm going to restart that. Fortunately, it won't stop the stream. So I'll just talk to you a little bit while that's restarting. Sometimes, as I mentioned, the system will be running a process in the background, and for some reason, GNOME shell has a way of eating up the CPU for whatever reason. I don't know what it does, but it sometimes could be another process that's running, and it will just go into a silly mode of being on the fritz, so you have to restart it. So that's what happened this time. But hopefully it won't take too long to come back up and I can resume painting. But that's a little back story on me in terms of painting and stuff like that. I used to do this when I was a child, but not so much digitally. I did a little bit of digital painting, but it was never really my focal point. Like, it was never my thing per se. I used to do more digital art in terms of pixel art and stuff, but not actual painting all that much. So I only got into this relatively recently. Still learning the ropes, of course, but I do enjoy it because painting has always been something that I love doing, and art is something I love just in a general sense. Doesn't matter what kind of art it is. So yeah, that is why I'm getting back into digital painting. Plus, I like sharing my knowledge with others, however it may come, whatever form it's in. So as I learn this, I'll pass on my knowledge to others. Still waiting on GNOME shell, by the way, to restart. It's taking its cool time. I sincerely hope that it doesn't take too long, because that would be frustrating. Okay, there we go. We're back in business. That should free up some CPU usage, I believe. Yep, it definitely did. Alright, so I can get back to painting now. Oops, what did I... Okay, I just pressed something on my graphics pen by accident. But thankfully it didn't do anything. Going to need to erase some of this art. You know what I forgot I could do? I could pull back in from the outside and blend the transparency in and then use that. That works. turn back on some of these other layers to see what she looks like now. Much better. Alright, with that done, onto the leaves, so I will lock all these layers here. Oops. I wonder if there's a way to lock all layers and only unlock one with like a keystroke or something, because this is pretty tedious. But as like most people do, I tend not to read documentation unless I have to. Oops, I forgot to turn back on the display. My apologies. And y'all didn't even tell me anything. But yeah. Sorry about that. I'm wondering if there's a way to lock and unlock layers with a keystroke, like lock every layer and then unlock one of them, but I'm not quite sure if that's even possible in Inkscape. I'll have to finally go and look up the documentation, but as I mentioned, I typically don't look up documentation that much unless I have to. Alright, cool. Just want to make sure that the other layers were locked. Now I'm going to erase away some of the edges of these leaves. Okay, this brush is way too big. Let me try this again. Much better. Still too big. I was trying to be a little lazy there just now, but that obviously was not working, because then I was erasing parts I don't want to erase. I think once I get a hang of where these leaves are supposed to go and how they're supposed to look, I'll probably add some spice to this by putting some holes in them or something. Cool thing with digital painting and digital art in general though is that you get as much flexibility and freedom as you want. Something you don't always get when you're doing things on paper or, you know, other media like that. You don't always have the flexibility that you have digitally. And with digital art, the other thing is you can have as many iterations as you want. So I could decide I want to scrap everything I did, but still keep a copy of it, or I want to keep what I did and try changing it up a little bit. I love that. I did notice, by the way, that the color I just selected is slightly darker than the one I'm actually supposed to be painting with, but not to worry, that can be smudged away, so I will leave it as is. I just noticed behind here that her hair needs some work, so I'll fix that. to erase. Alright, so let me just fill back in here just to be sure. I need to turn the leaves back on so I see what I'm working with. Alright, there we go. Alright, that looks much more even now. Probably the most random thing ever, but I feel like singing a particular song that does not fit with this beat whatsoever. Y'all are gonna laugh if you know what this is. But for some reason the song You'll Never Find, I can't remember the title of it, but that song came to me. You'll never find as long as you live. I don't know why that came to me, but something about this beat reminded me of it. Alright, just checking here to see that I don't have to color in anything else behind her. Alright, I don't think I do. So I'm going to turn the outline off for a moment. And I'm actually going to give her some clothing. Don't know what color to give her yet. I think purple probably works well with this, though. Thank God for lyrics, because now I can just color wildly and it doesn't really matter where it goes. It will not go over anything that it's not supposed to go over. Trying to think of if I should put it out to the other edge. Let me just see. Okay, no. So that should be good there. I think there's some stray skin over here, so I'm going to try to remove that. Just realized I was in the wrong layer. I missed it. That back and forth movement that I'm making here is to actually produce more of a straight line, because your hands tend to have some tremble in them even when you're not trying to. So the back and forth movement actually helps you to keep things in line. That's what I'm trying to do here. Let me just double check that I have this still at the edge where it's supposed to be. Okay, that should be work. That should work. Should be pretty good there. And now I'm going to shade her clothes a little bit because the purple I have here is nice, but I still think it should be shaded. Typing with a pen in your hand is very weird. Gonna airbrush this time. Haven't done that in a while. Actually, this brush is a little too thick still in my opinion, so let me use which one will I use here? I should probably install some brushes, shouldn't I? Alright, let's see how this looks. The reason I'm not making this completely even is not only because it's shading, but because it's supposed to give the look of natural lighting. Obviously this painting is not completely realistic. I'm not at that level yet in terms of digital painting, but I still like to maintain some degree of realism wherever I can. So that's what I'm trying to do here. By giving it that kind of feathered look, or like if the light is being filtered through something, you get more of a realistic effect than if you just go with a uniform shade. Because light usually doesn't fall all that evenly on anything because it has to pass through different things. So that's what I'm trying to mimic here. And thankfully Jewelers I can be as wild and crazy as I want. It doesn't even matter. Alright. Let me do some more of this now with a darker color. And I put in a darker one over here where the shadow should fall from the leaf. Thankfully with a graphics tablet I can use pressure to determine just how heavily to apply this as well, which is really, really cool. Let me get a different brush now, and oops, that is too small. Just to blend this in a little bit. Barely see it, but by coloring over the same areas, I'll be getting basically that same thing layered on top of itself. thing is with GIMP and most other tools I've used, you have to release the mouse or the cursor. So like you have to stop touching basically and go back over again. If not, it doesn't actually recolor on top of itself fully. So what I mean by that is when I go back and forth, it will be coloring the areas that I haven't touched yet, but it will not add additional color or opacity to it. So I have to release and go again each time. Can be slightly annoying because sometimes you just want to do like if you're coloring in real life, but that is what it is. So you just have to work with it. Alright, I need a darker color, even darker than that now. Put that in here. Slightly with that across these areas, and then I'm going to smudge. I have to be a bit more careful with this because I don't want to mess up the shading that I just achieved. Let's see how that comes out. Not too bad. When I color the leaves in, I'll try to actually make it look like if the light is passing through them in different levels. So this shading will make a lot more sense when I actually get around to that. Oh wait, wrong tool. Alright, I think that looks pretty good there. Let me see something here. What will happen if I use blend mode on this? Overlay should normally do the trick, but let me see color dodge. Yeah, I like color dodge. Color dodge normally brightens things a bit. Oh, whoa, that changed even more than I expected. It was moving a little slow. Alright, I'll leave it at overlay instead, because color dodge was way too bright. Alright, what I will do instead is duplicate this, duplicate there, and use multiply, which should darken it again. Alright, and now I will turn down the opacity on that so that it doesn't darken it too much, but it should still blend those two layers together. Alright, good, that looks good to me. And now back to the leaves again, so I will lock these two layers. Get to painting the leaves. really need to work on that a bit because it's not always immediately obvious when you have the layer locked or unlocked. Alright, let me try a different method of this. Instead of dragging it, I'm gonna just tap it and create like dots. Oops, not so far out. I always tell people when I'm doing any kind of art that there's method to my madness because sometimes it looks like I have no clue what I'm doing, even to me, but I actually don't know what I'm doing. So it's basically, as I always say, stacking simplicity. Like right now I'm putting all these, well, they're not, technically they're not dots, but they're like blotches all over the leaves. And there is a method to this madness, which is that I'm going to be stacking different blotches and blurs and stuff like that to produce the effect of natural variation in leaves that you would see in nature. But without explanation, sometimes it can look like, what on earth? Time for some cleanup on the edges. Good. Now I'm going to lock this there and create a new one and add some shade to the leaves. Working with the graphics tablet to select text sometimes is really an odd experience. I'm still getting used to it. Try this one. This should do the trick. Or maybe not. Probably would need to be rotated. Let's see how this looks. Okay, GIMP, what are you doing? have the wrong shortcut. So what did it do with the layer that I just created? Did it get rid of everything? Oh, there we go. Alright, you know what? I completely forgot this as undo history. So let me go back to add layer. That's what I wanted. Could have saved myself so much time just now. Right, that's what I wanted. Some of the method to my madness should be a little more visible at this point. So the underlaying lighter layers that I did just now aren't going anywhere. I'm overlaying them with something else. But the something else that is done with a brush that still has some space in it. So those underlaying layers still show through a little bit. Kind of like real life, you know, like leaves will be made up of layers of cells and the light is going to pass through each layer differently. And each time there's a little less light coming through, but also different wavelengths, etc. So I try to replicate that effect when I'm painting, drawing, doing whatever. As I always say whenever I do these streams, you can learn a lot from nature in terms of how to do art. So I suggest, even if you're not into the science of it, you know, go outside, look at stuff, even around your house, because obviously right now you can't get outside as much and you don't want to be around people you don't know too much. So, you know, you can, like, certain times of the day when the light is coming through your window a certain way, you can just go and look at household items, see how the light falls on them, see how they reflect it, different stuff like that. That's how you can begin to learn some of the tricks of the trade in terms of art and design. And that's also one way you can learn art without having to go to art school. Not saying that art school is wrong or bad or anything like that. I'm just saying you can still add to your skills without having to pay extra. By the way, I know I'm coloring outside the lines. That is quite deliberate. I'm going to be removing those shortly with the eraser tool, but for now I'm just trying to get as much coverage as I can in a shorter time as I can. If you're hearing any noises in the background, full house. So that's all that is. So I'm just cleaning out the edges now in this layer so that I don't have any unnecessary shading on her face or anything like that, or on any empty areas. But as I mentioned, I just did it quickly to get past certain areas or get uncovered quickly without having to, you know, try to be as careful as I could be. some of these areas that are getting touched by the eraser tool, I'll probably go back through the fine tooth comb and smudge them a little bit, because I'm a perfectionist and tiny details like that bother me. Probably won't bother anyone else, because everyone else will look at the painting and be like, oh, that's so nice, and I'll be looking at it and going, no. So I will probably go back and fix those in a while, or at some point. Even if I don't do it on stream, it will likely happen. Still trying to get over that perfectionist side of myself, but it is there. Shading to these leaves. I know it's a lot of detail, but if you want it to look as good as you can, put as much work into the details as you can. Some stripes with these now, or streaks really. Just remembered I do have some streaming tips that I was supposed to post about a month or two ago. I haven't forgotten, they're all written out and everything, but what was stopping me is that I'm planning to post them on a dedicated blog or something on my website, so that is the hold up. There are a number of outstanding things that need to be put in place for different things I'm working on, but hey, I'm one man, so some things will take a little longer than others, but the streaming tips that I promise are still on the cards. Oh, and another thing that I want to remind you of is the music today comes from Creators Live on YouTube. The link to this song will be in the video description when it is posted, and also you can check out their channel. They produce free Afrobeats music for creators like myself that you can use on YouTube and Twitch, etc. No royalties, no permission needed or anything like that. Just make sure to credit them in your video description. Alright, now with this layer I'm going to use blend modes again. This time let me try either screen or color dodge and see how they work. Turn down the opacity, of course, not so bright. filter.